The moment you are about to read will leave your heart racing and your screen frozen. Before you continue, make sure you hit subscribe right now because what unfolds next is a storm of emotion, betrayal, and impossible choices that you cannot afford to miss. This is the story everyone is secretly whispering about but no one dares to say out loud. Today, the truth finally rises to the surface. It all began on a quiet evening when the world seemed to be slowing down but tension was rising in places no one could see. Dylan Wang had been restless all day, pacing around his living room with a heaviness in his chest that refused to lift. His phone kept lighting up with messages but he ignored every single one. The silence inside his apartment felt louder than any noise. Meanwhile, miles away, Miles Wei sat in his car staring at his reflection in the rearview mirror. He had practiced what he was going to say at least 100 times but the words still trembled inside him. For weeks, rumors had been swirling around him and Xinyu and the pressure to clear the air had become unbearable. There was only one person who could confirm the truth. Bai Lu. And so, as the sun dipped behind the city skyline, a conference call that would change everything was about to begin. Dylan finally reached for his phone, exhaled slowly, and dialed Miles' number. The screen blinked for a moment before the call connected. Their voices met in a storm of tension. Neither of them greeted the other. There was too much unsaid between them. Before either of them could speak, Miles added one more participant. Bai Lu. The second her name appeared on the screen, Dylan froze. Miles froze. The world, for a moment, seemed to freeze with them. She answered with a soft hello, a voice that had always brought calm but now only deepened the intensity of what was coming. Her words were gentle, but they carried the weight of someone who knew she had just stepped into a fire that had been burning long before she arrived. Dylan was the first to speak. His tone was steady but trembling beneath the surface. He asked Miles why he insisted on dragging Bai Lu into something that should have been settled between them. But Miles fired back immediately. He claimed that Dylan had been twisting stories from the very beginning, making himself look innocent while the people around him carried the damage. Bai Lu listened quietly, her heart pounding. She had never imagined she would be stuck between two people who had both meant so much to her at different times in her life. And now they were turning to her like she was the only one who could save or destroy what was left. Miles' voice cracked as he spoke. He claimed he never wanted to hurt anyone. But the truth, he said, had to come out. He explained that Dylan had gone behind his back, planting doubt and suspicion between him and Xinyu. He said Dylan had manipulated moments, twisted conversations, and pushed himself into a place he did not belong. Dylan fired back with a sharp breath. He claimed that Miles was hiding behind his own mistakes and trying to blame others for them. He said Miles had been the one who walked into Xinyu's life with promises he could not keep, only to leave when the pressure closed in. Bai Lu closed her eyes for a moment. Both stories felt true in different ways. Both voices carried pain. Both men expected her to know the answer. She asked them both to calm down. But the moment she spoke, both men grew quiet in a way that felt even heavier. Her voice was soft but her words were sharp. She said she had seen both sides of this situation. She knew Miles' sincerity but she also knew Dylan's loyalty. And she knew that the truth was never simple, never clean, never easy for any of them. Miles begged her to speak honestly. He asked her to tell the truth as she knew it. He asked her to choose between the stories because he could no longer defend himself against the rumors without someone who had seen everything standing with him. Dylan whispered her name, asking her to be careful. Not careful for him, but careful for herself. He said that whatever she chose today would change the way the world looked at her forever. Her hands shook. Her breath trembled. The weight of two hearts sat on her shoulders. She began to speak, her voice cracking. She revealed secrets no one expected. She told them about the night she saw Miles crying alone after a fight he had with Xinyu. She told them about the moment she watched Dylan walk away from someone he loved because he believed it was better for everyone. She described the nights she sat with both of them at different times, hearing truths they never shared with each other. And then she revealed the part that neither of them expected. She confessed that she felt responsible for the distance between them because she had kept too many things to herself out of fear of breaking their fragile connection. Both men were silent. For the first time since the call began, the anger between them melted into something deeper, something heavier, something raw. Miles was the first to break. He apologized. Not with pride or defense, but with sincerity. He admitted that he had been afraid, insecure, overwhelmed by the chaos of his feelings for Xinyu and the pressure of the world watching him. Dylan spoke next. He said he never wanted to become the villain in someone else's story and that maybe he had pushed too hard without thinking of the consequences. Bai Lu listened, tears forming in her eyes. The truth had been spoken, but it had come with a price. Everything between the three of them had changed forever. She told them that if they wanted to rebuild anything, whether friendship or trust or even the respect they once had, they would have to stop fighting through her and start speaking to each other directly. She said she would no longer be the judge of their situation because it was not her place to decide who was right and who was wrong. The call ended with heavy silence. No one hung up first. They all waited until the screen finally dimmed on its own. The world would never know what truly happened in that call unless they heard it from one of them. But the impact was immediate. The online world exploded with theories, reactions, and debates. Fans were shocked. Some took sides. Others begged for peace. But no one denied that something extraordinary had happened between these three people. And as night fell, Bai Lu sat alone, staring at her reflection in the dark window, knowing that her decision to speak the truth had changed everything. This was not the end. It was the beginning of a new storm. If you want part 2 where this emotional fallout explodes into public drama, just tell me and I will write it. The moment after the call ended, silence hung heavier than ever. The city outside was quiet, unaware that inside countless hearts had shifted forever. Dylan Wang sat motionless, staring at the dark screen of his phone as if waiting for it to blink alive again with some impossible answer. Miles Wei, in his car, gripped the steering wheel until his knuckles turned white. Both men had thought they were prepared, but Bai Lu's words had cut deeper than either expected, and the weight of truth had settled over them like a storm cloud ready to break. Bai Lu, meanwhile, felt a strange emptiness. Her heart still pounded, but the fear that had clawed at her for weeks was now replaced with a burning clarity. She knew that nothing could return to the way it was before. The three of them had crossed into a new reality, one where honesty ruled, but also one where the past could not be undone. The next morning, the world caught its first glimpse of the fallout. Screens everywhere lit up with whispers of leaked snippets from the call. Clips of Dylan's trembling voice, Miles' desperate apologies, and Bai Lu's raw, tearful confession spread like wildfire. Fans debated endlessly, theories exploded on every forum, and even strangers felt they had to choose a side. The intensity of the drama was breathtaking. Dylan tried to focus, to block out the noise, but he could feel the world closing in. Every comment, every notification, every headline was a reminder of how exposed everything had become. He thought about Bai Lu, about the way she had spoken, about the courage it took for her to say the truth, and he realized how much he had underestimated the impact of honesty. Miles faced his own reckoning. For the first time, he saw the consequences of every word he had held back, every emotion he had bottled inside. His mind raced through every confrontation, every misunderstanding, every quiet night of regret. He knew that nothing could erase the past, but perhaps, just perhaps, this was the beginning of a chance to rebuild, to try again, not for the world, but for themselves. And Bai Lu, in the quiet of her apartment, made a decision. She would no longer hide behind silence. She would face the chaos she had helped unravel, not as a mediator, but as a person who had lived through the storm and survived. She knew the path forward would be painful, that it would demand courage she wasn't always sure she had. But she also knew it would be worth it. Because the truth, messy and complicated as it was, had finally set her free. By evening, Dylan and Miles reached out to each other, not through her, not through whispers, but directly. Their conversation was cautious, awkward, but real. For the first time in months, they spoke as equals, as two people bound by experience rather than misunderstanding. There were apologies, confessions, and moments of silence that spoke louder than any words. And though the wounds were still fresh, the tension had softened, replaced by a fragile hope that things could change. Bai Lu watched from a distance, a small, tired smile forming on her lips. She had been at the center of a storm she never asked to create, but in the aftermath, she realized she had given them the most powerful gift anyone could, the chance to face themselves, to confront the past, and to start anew. The city outside glittered with lights, oblivious to the drama that had unfolded behind closed doors. But inside, 3 hearts had shifted forever. 3 lives had collided and, in the collision, they had discovered something that no rumors, no jealousy, and no fear could ever take away, the raw, undeniable power of truth. And as the night stretched on, Bai Lu whispered to herself, her voice barely audible, yet firm, "This is only the beginning, but I will not be silent anymore." The storm had passed, but its echoes would resonate forever.